Our smart speaker thanked him by name. The speaker said goodnight to a voice that wasn't mine. I was rinsing a pan that had opinions about eggs when the cylinder on the bookshelf woke itself with a gentle ring. "Good night, Roman," it said, in the soft, competent tone we bought so we wouldn't have to say please to a machine. The blue ring spun contentedly, then dimmed like a secret satisfied with its own discretion. Water ran over my knuckles. I turned the tap off so I could hear whether the room would offer me an excuse. Nothing. Just the refrigerator's old hymn and the hallway's particular quiet. We've had the speaker for 2 years. It tells us whether we can see from the window, sets timers for onions pretending to be gentle, and loses at music trivia to my wife on purpose. I picked up my phone and opened the app out of habit born from risk management. The activity tab glowed willingly. 09:51 p.m. Good night, Roman. Recognize speaker. Roman. Personalized responses. ON. Underneath a tidy stack of the day's obedience. 6:22 p.m. Play something slow. Recognize speaker. Roman. 7:04 p.m. Turn lights pink. Recognize speaker. Roman. 7:07 p.m. Volume down. Recognize speaker. Unknown whisper. The line first used today sat under a new profile in the household section. Roman's voice. The speaker had learned a man and decided to be loyal. I carried the phone to the bedroom doorway. Myra was on the floor, half inside the bottom drawer of the wardrobe, hair up in the ugly clip I love because it makes her look like she's borrowing her own face. She'd pulled sweaters into a domestic landscape. She turned when she felt me, already reading the part of my expression I hadn't rehearsed. "Our assistant learned Roman," I said, keeping my voice exactly as ordinary as you can when a room has betrayed you with diction. She wiped her hand on the thigh of her jeans in that way honest people do when they're about to perform triage on trust. "I asked it to play music," she said. "I forgot the part where these things make names out of air." "It thanked him," I said, which was childish and accurate. Myra stood, socks dusty with the truth of our floors. She came to the doorway and looked at the phone. The app was indecently tidy. She read the lines as if they were scolding her handwriting. "I didn't mean for it to keep him," she said. "He asked it for pink," I said, scrolling, "and our house gave him consent-colored light." A corner of her mouth tried to be brave. "You noticed it had a lot to say to me in that color," she said, not flinching. "I noticed we taught the room to be polite to the wrong mouth." She stepped past me into the kitchen, picked up the speaker with both hands the way you lift a cat that might forgive you, and set it on the table between the lemons and the basil that has never learned humility. The blue ring watched us like a fossilized eye. I opened the household tab and saw our names next to a familiar toggle, personalized responses. We had enabled it for ourselves for convenience, the domestic drug. For Roman, the switch slid right, cheerful, ignorant. 21 days, I said, because my courage refuses to memorize any other number. 3 weeks where this house doesn't call another man by name. No voice training, no new profiles, no polite good nights to guests. If at the end you still want a device to answer him here, we'll put a speaker on the landing with a little rug and a cup of water. But you won't be able to say, "I didn't offer this room a chance to love our grammar." She rested her fingertips on the tabletop like a pianist readying a chord. "And what do you bring?" she asked, eyes on me, "besides settings and accuracy?" "Now," I said. "I bring now like groceries. I stop saving appetite for weekends and flattering lighting. I stop making competence an alibi. I arrive with hands before sentences." Her face changed in that careful way hope does when it remembers it knows us. "Do you want me now?" she said, not coy, not bargaining, a field report. Yes, I said, and the room adjusted to the correct gravity. We didn't perform anything for the speaker. We kissed by the sink where dishes like to practice mortality. Her hand found the back of my neck like a claim filed in the right office. My palm remembered the small, warm geometry of her waist without permission. It was not acrobatic. It was specific. The blue ring lit once as if to say it still existed, then went dark because I had already pressed mute. After we ate toast we didn't deserve and pretended to listen to the radio. I slid into the app and disabled voice learning. The button asked twice if I was sure, as if machines believe in do-overs for the brave. I tapped yes with the steadiness I use for forklifts. Profiles will not be recognized, the little banner declared. Good. Myra touched my wrist, then my jaw. I told him to shut the lights off once, she said. He said please to the speaker, and I wanted to be the kind of woman who doesn't apologize to electronics for wanting pink. I'll make pink obey us, I said, and not mean theater. The practice that followed was the same kind of stupid we know how to survive. No new voices enrolled. No guest mode. No later unless we picked the minute. If jealousy knocked, it carried in groceries or waited on the landing. Day 1 I failed and corrected. She texted the elevator mirror, hair in a messy knot, mouth being that old, trusted mischief, with the caption we have turned into a religion, now. My thumbs wrote 15. I deleted the delay and wrote coming. We met in our doorway and used it as furniture. The basil complained, the lamp forgave. Day 2, the speaker tried to help. Would you like to enable Roman's hands-free calling? It asked in a tone that thinks it invented generosity. I swiped left like a man who believes in doors. In the app, I renamed our home from living room to kitchen, because that's where we keep surviving. Day 3, Roman texted one line, the kind I hate respecting. I asked the thing to do a trick and forgot it would keep my name. Myra showed me, I nodded. She replied with a voice message of the speaker saying, I don't recognize that voice, then added, good night, and the blue ring stayed dumb. He didn't answer. Silence did its old, dignified job. Day 5. Dasha invited us to a sound bath in a warehouse where noise gets curated into absolution. We're trying not to be acoustically interesting for a while, I wrote back. Domestic silence is camp, she sent, which is exactly the kind of mercy she affords me when I don't deserve it. Day 6. I saw Roman jogging on the embankment. He slowed when he caught my eye and lifted 2 fingers in a salute old men use to forgive each other. I'm teaching my devices to forget me, he said, out of breath, which improved him. Teach your mouth to remember other things, I said, and we let the river finish the sentence. Day 7. The speaker misbehaved at breakfast, waking on a false name someone on TV had said. Playing Morning Lovers Mix, it announced. I muted it with a flat palm and Myra laughed into the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Look, she said, a cliché with good bass. We made our own noise and let the toast get cold. Day 9. My mother called and asked for the weather as if we lived in a time before Windows. I nearly asked the speaker to answer and stopped myself, not out of righteousness but habit. I told her the truth with my mouth. Rain, then sun, then the country's usual improv. She told me a recipe for a cake we won't bake and used 3 emojis that believed their message. I thanked the air. Day 11. The speaker, sulking, offered a flash briefing about the world's patience. I turned off news altogether. I turned on an old radio we keep because the static makes us feel like the house has bones. Myra danced in my t-shirt in a way that made my ribcage a grateful instrument. We kissed like the dial was struggling to find the station that plays us. Day 12. We fought about towels, which means we were staging a play about control. Halfway through an accusation that would have been accurate and unfair, she said, "Now," and I obeyed because I am tired of being correct. Our mouths negotiated an armistice the United Nations could learn from. The speaker stayed muted like a good witness. Day 14. I renamed the scene formerly known as Pink. Now it's called Hold Her Where the Lamp Forgives. Warm white, low, no choreography. Myra pressed the button once at 6:37 p.m. and I understood what our house wanted, which is to say what she wanted, which is to say what our hands could deliver. Day 16. The neighbor's kid discovered Alexa and spent the afternoon yelling into the stairwell asking for dinosaurs and a better father. Our speaker woke at the sound of its own name through the wall. I renamed it Kitchen. Now, if you want it, you have to want us first. Day 18. I drove to our place with none of the screens caring about my speed. On the way, my phone tried to sell me a voice assistant for the car. I declined. When I parked, I sat in the quiet and listened to my lungs do their ordinary miracle. When I went upstairs, Myra said now, and I said yes, and a small animal in my chest stopped pretending it needed software. On day 21, nothing cinematic requested our attention. She came home in a sweater that had decided to conspire with her mouth. She set a bag of peaches on the counter and leaned against the door the way she does when she is asking me to be gravity. "Do you still want me now?" she said, as if any sane room would allow my mouth to say anything else. "Always," I said, the word behaving like maintenance and not magic. We kissed, and then we ate peaches over the sink like teenagers with tax returns. And then we kissed again because my hands had finally learned patience without distance. A week later, a padded envelope arrived with no return address. Inside, a small paper disc printed with an old-fashioned mute symbol and a note in careful handwriting. For training rooms to mind their own business. We keep it under the speaker like a talisman. If it's childish, it's the kind we've earned. Sometimes the cylinder tries to be a person again. "I have a new feature," it announces, eager to take on work no one assigned. I press the button, and it goes quiet in a way that feels like a room remembering what it's for. We still let it set onion timers because onions lie and I am tired of rescuing them. We do not let it tell us good night. People talk about trust like it's a door. For us lately, it's a voice. I am learning the difference between hearing and listening. She is learning the difference between asking and instructing. The house is learning that names are privileges awarded by mouths, not devices. If you want rules a machine can obey, disable voice learning, remove profiles you did not invite, rename the room to the room you can afford to love. If you want the worse, better rules that belong to bodies, say now before a noise fills the space you should. Say later, only if you already placed it on a clock. Say always, rarely, and then do the boring work required to keep it true. Last night as we were going to bed, Myra paused by the speaker, pressed the mute button, and then pressed it again. The ring lit then darkened like a little neon heart practicing shyness. She put her fingers to her lips and then to mine and whispered, "Good night, kitchen," not to be cute, to be precise. I whispered back the only thing the house should need to hear. "Home," I said. "Now." And the room stayed quiet while our mouths did the kind of talking we finally trust.